Uh, all right, just going through everything, making sure we good. All right, so I got a good show lined up for us this Saturday night. We're gonna cover quite a few subjects. So first quarter, we're gonna go over Stephen A. versus Nick Wright and LeBron. We're gonna dig deep into that video. Nick Wright put out after Stephen A. made multiple. He mentioned the LeBron situation multiple times again on a couple different platforms, so we're gonna cover that. We're also gonna cover for the second quarter WNBA. They got some big negotiations going on right now. We're gonna cover their not their salary cap situation, but how they're fighting for equal revenue splits, similar to what the NBA has. We'll cover if that's even possible. We're also going to go over the high school track star who hit the other track athlete in the head and just cover it from a few different angles, determine if we believe her story that it was accidental or if it was intentional. Um, Whether we feel how we feel, she's been charged, so we'll definitely cover that. Third quarter, of course, you know, I'm a Cleveland fan, repping everything Cleveland. Cleveland's the home team. So we'll be covering Myles Garrett getting paid. We'll kind of be doing a view of some local media in Cleveland, just kind of looking at how they have covered the situation with Myles. So we're going to show some clips before Myles, when Myles was saying he wants to be traded. We're going to show some clips after um, Myles was extended. We're going to cover some of what fans have talked about since Myles has been re-signed. Then we'll kind of look at some of Miles's answers that he covered in his press conference, where they formally announced him signing the contract extension, making him the highest paid non-QB in the NFL. Then fourth quarter, we're going to get to a pretty good subject. It's going to be entertaining once we get to it. Entertainment or analysis and what we're actually getting from the likes of people, you know, like Charles Barkley, Shaq. Are they offering us any good information, or are they just kind of, you know, winging it and they don't really know what they're talking about? So those will be our subjects we'll be covering tonight. Um, so get ready. It's gonna be a pretty decent, pretty long show. So if you are out working, you know, you're riding around in the car, you can definitely listen to this and then come back to the video of it later. This episode will be live on YouTube, X, Twitch, and TikTok. So you'll definitely be able to replay it on X, and you'll be able to replay it on YouTube. If you do miss anything, or if you kind of jump in and jump out, we got quite a few options for you. So the platform, you know, doesn't really matter. We got you covered on all of them. So shout out to everybody that's already here. Definitely like and follow on all platforms. Off the record with D. And let's get into it. Let's get into this first subject. So it's first quarter. Everybody knows now at this point that Stephen A. Smith and LeBron had an incident about a week or so ago when the Lakers were playing the New York Knicks. Stephen A. Smith was sitting courtside, and LeBron approached him in between the third and fourth quarter. He had some choice words for Stephen A. Stephen A. wasn't really given a chance to respond. We covered this in last week's episode, and I just gave my view on how Stephen A. is always, you know, telling athletes if they don't agree with what he's saying, you know, he's around. People can see him in person. LeBron took that choice to see him in person. Stephen A. Talked about it one way, then he went on Gil's Arena, talked about it a different way, then he went on Hannity. So he's just been talking about it a lot for a situation that he initially said he didn't want to cover. But I find it funny that Nick Wright is one of the people who has been he's been really vocal about holding other people in the media accountable for things they do and things they say. So I like his take on it. So we'll cover that. And it's funny because some of the things that he said is actually very similar to what I said in last week's episode. So let's get to it. First clip is here. This is going to be what Stephen A. Smith said on Gil's Arena when he went on the show this week. So let's get it.
I thought it was weak. I thought it was some bull. But in the moment, I knew that I was listening to a father. I thought it was weak.
All right, so that's what Stephen A. Smith said. He said he thought it was weak. He, said he thought he was, speaking to a father. So just kind of I don't know, just a strange angle that it seems like he took there. So let's get to what Nick Wright had to say, which is here. Let me get this adjusted. I got a bunch of YouTube tabs going, so we might see some ads. But if we do see some ads, take that time while we're watching the ads just to go ahead and like and follow me on whichever platform you're tuning in from. All right, so let's get to it. Let me get this playing. This is a 24-minute video. I don't believe I'm going to watch the whole video. And like I said, I watch stuff on rapid speed. So I usually have it on like 1.5, 1.75. We're going to start off on 1.2. See what that speed is like. So here we go. I'll stop yapping. Let's get to the video.
Stephen A. Smith has been going around talking about his confrontation with LeBron James. Talked about it on his show. Went and talked about it with Gilbert Arenas, and he said, "I thought it was weak. I thought it was some BS."
Yeah,
about
LeBron coming up to him, and then also he went on Sean Hannity's show last night.
Yes,
and this got brought up, and despite all the awful things Hannity has said about LeBron over the years, so I have a lot of takes on this, and I was going to leave this be, but the Gilbert Arenas show appearance was, to me, it has to be responded to. And there's so many different tentacles to this. So I will first I want to make this point. We in the media have to be willing to occasionally take an L. Everyone does, but particularly us. We in the media have to be willing to at times be like, that was a miss. I was wrong. I didn't handle that perfectly. And we in the media also have to recognize and acknowledge that no matter how big or prominent or wealthy or successful,
his cadence is kind of slow. We're going to speed this up. We're going to go 1.5.
We will never be, from a fame or credibility to the audience standpoint, on par with the biggest athletes that we cover. It'll never. Howard Cosell was not equal to Muhammad Ali. He was telling Ali's story. The audience was there for Ali. Bob Costas was not equal to Michael Jordan. He's telling.
Just going to jump in here. I use quite a few YouTube videos, so fair use on me using this video. I think this is a really good point. I think sometimes now that the media, they get the views. Shout out to Jason for the coins. I appreciate it. The media, they get the views. They're signing the big contracts. So they think that they are the main show. But what they're forgetting is that the main show that people pay to see is the actual players, and that they're reporting or telling the story about the players. They aren't the players. So that's a really good point from Nick right there. Let's get back to it.
Michael Jordan's story. Go ahead, Demonte.
With that point, don't you think, like, because Stephen A. Smith's saying it's weak, LeBron James obviously has all the leverage on the court. Do you not think that it's a little, I don't know, I don't want to say it's weak, but because he obviously does have leverage. Like, nobody's going to be on Stephen A. Smith's side.
But you also, that's the thing. So that's the thing. You have to know in the media that at some point, the actual stars are the people we're talking about. Sometimes we can be good enough or successful enough or prominent enough or whatever, where we become kind of supporting actors, but it's their movie. People are here. They care so much about them that we become important people because we talk about them. And so there will never be a White House correspondent that is more important to the political discourse than the president. There will never be a Stephen A. is, and he has earned it. He is the most prominent sports media member, which does make him bigger than some athletes. But he will never be bigger than the biggest athletes. Like, here's a good kind of, back of the napkin math. Do you remember, Demonte, when I went after Patrick Beverly.
Yeah.
That is, I think, two people.
Kind of funny right here. Patrick Beverly about to catch a stray. And as y'all see, I got this on 1.5. It still seems like it's moving kind of slow. Let's get back to the video.
On kind of equal footing. But think about why that is.
Yeah.
You have me. I'm just saying we're about on equal footing. Me, someone who's probably near the bottom of the top 10 in my field. And someone like him who's near the top of the bottom 10 in his field. And that's where we meet. Yeah. So you've got to and there was another little jab at Patrick Beverly fit in there. So it is, so no, I don't think it's unfair for LeBron
to press him
to respond. We all and here is the other thing. You got to be prepared in the moment with how you're going to respond. If you get checked, and this idea, I told the story, confronted is too strong, but questioned by Jalen Hurts' mom night before the Super Bowl. She was totally within her rights. I've told the story before. I have nothing but good things to say about her. And one of the only, there are not many bright sides for me that came out of that Super Bowl, but I respected her in that interaction so much that I was part of me, the little part of me that wasn't heartbroken about the result of the game, was happy for her because she was so adamant her son was going to win and that he was going to play great and all that happened. But in that moment, I had a choice to make. Do I fold my hand, or do I say, okay, we can actually talk about it? What I don't think is typically cool is to, in the moment, fold your hand, and then after the fact, talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about it. This episode of What's Right is brought to you by...
All right, we're back on. We already got ads on YouTube. We can't play his ads that he's running to. I agree with everything you said right there. He's talking about how Jalen Hurts' mom talked to him prior to the Super Bowl, just, talking about how confident she was and how her son was going to produce in the game, which he did. He ended up being Super Bowl MVP, so I think that's great. We also covered how Stephen A. Smith talked about how Kyrie Irving actually approached him, and also how Kyrie Irving's father also was texting Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith even admitted it was in a way that he didn't appreciate. So this is not a new situation. I think the difference here is it's LeBron James. And one thing I'm noticing more as more media, instead of them just being on like a main network, now that they're, basically every media person is on YouTube now, just looking for things that other YouTubers will look for. So they're looking for opportunities to go viral. They're looking for clicks. They're looking for views. And I just think that that's part of the reason why Stephen A. Smith has spoke about the LeBron James situation so many different times, just because, it's who's bigger in sports right now than LeBron in the United States. So, he just wants to hold on to that. And I think he just kind of want to, use it for everything that he can get from it. So we're going to try to skip. He has an ad here. Let's get forward. Let's get back to him talking.
Go ahead and say, I have a hard time fully buying. On Gilbert's show, Stephen A. said, essentially, my producers made me address it. I didn't want to. My producers made me address it. Bro, that's not how that works. We all know that. It's not how that works on First Things First. I can't imagine that's how that works on First Take. I cannot imagine. And I do not think that anybody really believes there is anything on that show that Stephen A's like, I do not want to do this. And they're like, sorry, you have to. Come on, man. That's not a thing. Maybe the day after a finals game, if someone was like, I don't want to talk about the basketball game, they might be like, well, you have to. And if not, we're going to that's not a thing. And the other thing was this, because on Gilbert's show, Stephen A. said, oh, I thought in the moment this was about Bronny. It wasn't until I saw what LeBron's conversation, somewhat covered, mouth not, with Richard Jefferson, that I knew this was actually about what I had said about him as a father. Man.
This is where I totally agree with Nick right here. This is also the same thing I said last week. I believe the thing that set LeBron off was he was calling out him as a father. One thing you got to kind of just be conscious of, people have different things that trigger them and things that, that they're sensitive to that might just set them off. Someone who was raised in a single parent home with just a mother, a lot of times you will hear fathers or you'll hear the children who grow up from them homes say, they actually want to be present. They want to be there as fathers. So that could be a sore spot or a trigger point when someone questions how they actually are parenting their kids. Especially when you believe that you're putting your children in the best position for them to be strong, productive citizens as adults, and a plus to the community versus a negative to the community. So that could be a sore spot. And that's something that, Stephen A. Smith just has to know. That's one of those ones where, even if LeBron has never said that, you can kind of just put two and two together just based on life experience. And you can come to the conclusion that this might be a sore spot for him. So just to play the naive role that you didn't know how, what, when, where, why, Nick is also going to speak on it. I brought it up last week about how when Stephen A. Smith said he wished that someone would have called him, this was after he first spoke about it and said that LeBron's people reached out to him and he mocked them live on his show for reaching out to him. So that was an opportunity for them to do something in private. He mocked them. He, kind of joked about it, laughed about it. So I think that's the reason why he's just not getting those sympathy points here. So let's get back to it.
I knew it the next day. I was on here the next day, and I told everyone that's what it was about. It was obvious that's what it was about. Everyone who's in these circles knows that's what it was about. When LeBron's people called you and you made fun of them, it was months ago, it was about that. It was about I'm begging you as a father. So it's okay to say, I was caught off guard. I was caught off guard, didn't really know. And then the other part of it, again, and I say this every time and I'll say it again, and it's so funny that I texted with Stephen A. the morning before this all happened. So I think this happened a week ago today. I actually texted with Stephen A. that morning. So before it all happened, obviously. I have, and I'm still using current present tense, I hope, a good relationship with him. But I have to be fair here because I'm not hesitant ever on this platform or on the TV show really to criticize colleagues if I think they're dead wrong. I can't just have the guys that I really like or my friends or whatever be like, sacred cows here, especially when this is the story that continues to be the story. The implication with Gilbert and company that, listen, maybe I'd have handled that differently, but I work for Walt Disney. Come on, man.
Yeah, about the fighting, or I was gonna.
I mean, that's what it seemed like was being implied.
I thought the same
and
thing.
come on, man. Listen, Stephen A. to his credit has gotten in great shape and did a real boxing thing and would be even at his he's in great shape for his age and despite being.
All right, so that's Nick Wright. What's Right with Nick Wright? That's him and his son. They do a podcast. Comes on a couple times a week. Check it out if you want to see the full video of them talking about it. But I think we get the gist of it there. Basically, he's just kind of calling the task Stephen A. Smith and how he has responded after, just after the situation. He initially responded. He was dejected. We spoke about it. We talked about it on last week's episode, how he just didn't have that confidence that he normally has. Then he, calls out LeBron, says he believes it was weak. And then he also insinuated that if he didn't work for Disney, that, he potentially would have handled it a different way. I coined the phrase, it's blowing the air. He was blowing the air. I don't believe under any circumstances that Stephen A. Smith would ever attempt to get into a physical altercation with LeBron. I'm just not believing it. And the reason why I can say that confidence is because LeBron is physically intimidating to Stephen A. And we can see that just based on how he responded, just based on LeBron coming to him in a stern way in a public setting with thousands of people watching and potentially millions of people going to see it based on how we have camera phones and cameras all over the arenas now. He wasn't a person who didn't seem like he wasn't, he was, what the young people say, he didn't seem like he was standing on business. So I don't want to hear about it now that you would have, fought or you would have did this, you would have did that. I'm not trying to hear that. That's just, Stephen A. Smith blowing air after the fact. So we're going to put a pin in that. That's 2 episodes in a row. We talked about this. This was a higher topic on last week's show. Hopefully we're done with this subject. Stephen A. Smith, he's kind of doing similar to what I believe Todd McShay was doing last week. And, just kind of keeping the virality of it, keeping the clips going, and just, hoping that people still watch and tune in when he mentions the situation with LeBron. That's what I think it is. So we're just going to put a pin in that. And we're going to leave that there. So we're going to get to Let me change this up here. All right, we're going to get to the second quarter. Let me get this changed. We're going to do it live. All right, second quarter. All right, so second quarter, we're gonna actually do a 2-for-1 in the second quarter. I didn't even get to get it on the thumbnail, but it's just something that everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about. No, we're not gonna go there. We're gonna go WNBA first, then we'll go to the viral track event that everybody's talking about. So we're gonna go WNBA next. All right, so here you have Angel Reese, Unapologetically Angel. This is her podcast. She does this pretty frequently. I'm not sure the schedule, but she had Dejanay Carrington, very good defender in the WNBA. She played for, I believe, Connecticut last year. I believe this year she's going to be on the Dallas Wings. I follow the WNBA slightly. My favorite team is Las Vegas Aces. Asia Wilson, that's my favorite player. So I follow the Aces. So I have an idea of some of the other players who are really good. And Dejanay Carrington, she's one of the ones who really made a name for herself, especially on the defensive end. She had some notable stops last year all throughout the season. She's normally given the opposing team's best scorer, and she has that defense responsibility. She holds her own for the most part. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of background on her. Angel Reese, everybody knows Angel Reese, went to LSU, double machine. And, she just won Defensive Player of the Year in the Unrivaled League. This is the first season of the Unrivaled League. I really like the format of when the Unrivaled League did the 101 kind of tournament that they did. And then the winner ended up winning $200,000. So I really like that. I really like that concept. Really like how, they're highlighting different players from the women's game, especially with that one-on-one concept. I think that's really great. But we're going to get to it. They're going to be speaking about the CBA negotiations for the WNBA. And this first video is them speaking about it. Then I have a second video that we're going to watch. I don't believe the portion where they're speaking about is that long. So let me just make sure we got the right spot. We might get an ad here.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree with that.
But we got to get face the consequences.
What?
Damn, we got to get it up.
Y'all-
All right, we can go back
So
just
we
a
all
little bit
did
here.
it.
Yeah, the CBA is coming up. I can't wait.
Girl, y'all benefited from everything. Y'all youngins benefited from NIL.
What does that mean? We deserve more.
Of course,
Everybody.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree with that.
But we got to get face the consequences.
What?
Damn, we got to get it up.
Y'all gotta
like
deal with
y'all.
something. Y'all gotta do something.
But the women coming in, not this year, but next year, or because
Yeah.
the ones coming in this year will still be on the rookie contract again.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that the year after, they gonna get more. They probably gonna be making more than us.
No, they are.
I'm
They
hurt.
are. Like, yeah. I've been in the meetings. They are.
I need to get in the. I need to get in the field.
You need to come to the
I
meeting.
gotta get in the meetings because I'm hearing like, yeah, they don't give us. If y'all don't give us what we want, like, we sitting
Yeah,
out.
that's a possibility for real.
Yeah.
It was kind of a possibility on the last one, but like now I feel
It's
like
like-
just with the leverage
I
that
heard, yeah.
we have right now, and it's just a time that women's basketball is going crazy. They're really,
It will
it's
get
gonna
what we
be
want.
it's gonna be a time next year.
Ooh,
So,
I'm excited.
but we deserve it.
I'm excited. How was it to feel like you?
All right, so that's basically what they. Okay, we got the mic live. That's basically what they spoke about when they were going over the CBA, and basically how they feel like they deserve more. They just signed a pretty big media rights deal. I believe it's in the tune of about $2 billion. And the next video I have is going to break down really good how the WNBA does financially. I'll give my take after we watch this video about what I think will happen with the WNBA. This is a 12-minute video. I don't think we got to have it on Chipmunk Speed. This video is from Nate the lawyer. He covers the world of a bunch of different subjects. This is one of the subjects I think he covered really well. And he got it pretty concise into a shorter video. So that's a plus. I like when, I can find a lot of things that are concise and we can just kind of break it down and go from there. So this is Nate the lawyer, fair use for all the videos. The last clip that we watched, it was from the Unapologetically Angel podcast. That's Angel Reese's podcast. And then this one is from Nate the Lawyer. So let's get this going.
In 2024, the WNBA is estimated to bring in $200 million in revenue. Just for comparison, the NBA is expected to earn $13 billion.
All right, so it is pretty slow. We're gonna get this. We're gonna speed this up just a tad bit. I don't think we need to go crazy, but we're gonna go 1.25 just to get the speed up a little bit. Then let's get back to it.
The WNBA has historically lost around $10 million per season. Some estimates have said that the league is going to lose about $50 million.
The WNBA attendance, not good. The WNBA ratings, not good. The WNBA salaries, not good. It's not working because you, the consumer, don't want it, and I'm never going to cover anything because I feel it's a movement.
That's taking away from what we should be talking about, which is equal pay. Here's the thing. This cannot be done. It is not on the oppressed to fix oppression. It has to be done with allyship, which is where someone like Draymond Green, a man, comes into a space that affects predominantly women. But the thing about being an ally is when you come into that space, you should be listening first, not talking first, because there is no one who understands better what these women are going through than these women. If you come into this space and say, okay, I'm going to listen, I'm going to take this feedback of what you've been living and what you've been experiencing, and then I'm going to then talk and then offer my ideas, perhaps even away from Twitter, because then it comes off like you're talking at somebody who's been going through something that's incredibly difficult for years and years and years. Then maybe we can get to the point where women aren't making 80 cents to every dollar that a man makes. And by the way, that's white women.
I'm really tired of seeing them complain about the lack of pay because they're doing themselves a disservice by just complaining.
They're not just complaining.
Huh?
They're not just complaining, really.
But they are, because they're not laying out steps that they can take to change that, because the people that can change it, they're just going to continue to say, well, the revenue isn't there.
Some new questions tonight about the future of the WNBA players' contracts after this.
All right, so we're going through this video. I think that was some key points right there. Basically, WNBA players are saying this, and everyone else is, just looking at the situation from just a strictly business standpoint. So I definitely understand it. Draymond Green, he has some good points there where he's saying, hey, lay out the steps so we can get you to what you actually want. Because otherwise, if you don't lay out steps, then basically they'll just keep treating you the same way. So I definitely understand that point there. Let's get back to the video.
Year's seasons and what will happen there, especially with one of the most popular players in the league now threatening the possibility of a strike. There's talks towards a collective bargaining agreement happening now between the Players Association and the league. And Chicago Sky forward Angel Reese says she wants in on those negotiations. Listen.
Beating the S&P on autopilot.
All right, so we got an ad right here.
You're going to want to check this out.
Anytime you see a YouTube ad, take the time to like the video. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel on whatever platform you're watching on.
We said no.
So in this video, we're going to be talking about the WNBA versus the NBA wage.
All right, so this is where Nate the Lawyer is going to do a very good breakdown of this. He just played a very small portion of what we actually watched previously. We watched a couple minutes of it where they were specifically speaking on negotiations in the CBA. So now he's going to do a breakdown. This is more of the business side. So a lot of times people just say one thing, or they only talk about no revenue. And they say, oh, well, you can't get revenue if you're not doing, this, and this. But this is a very good breakdown. And then this is where you'll see they do have some leverage because the game is more widely viewed. But also you'll see here how they can use that leverage and what they can actually get. All right, so let's get it. Shout out to Nate the Lawyer.
Gap. We're going to talk about what the wage gap is, how much money each league actually brings in, and the arguments for equal pay on both sides. And at the end of the video, you get to make the decision. Who do you believe has the best argument? All right, so before we start with the numbers, let's get into how the WNBA came to be.
In 1996, the NBA and its then commissioner David Stern launched a women's league, the WNBA. The men's league was going through a huge boom with Michael Jordan at the helm, and a women's league played in the summertime would provide a full year of basketball and would also help grow the sport internationally. The NBA and its owners would own the WNBA.
It survived because of the great support the NBA has given it over many years. So there's a reason why the WNBA is the longest tenured women's professional sports league in the country. Think about this, by double any other.
WNBA team owners received 50% stake in 2002. In 2022, the league raised $75 million from a group of investors, the league's first ever outside investment and the largest in women's sports history. They received 16% stake in return, leaving.
So this chart right here is very important. These numbers are going to keep coming into play as we watch the rest of this video. But just looking at the breakdown. So the NBA owns 42%. They've been investing into the league from the league's inception. The WNBA actually owns 42%. And then in 2022, the WNBA took $75 million investment for a 16% stake in the WNBA. I think that is going to be the sticking point. I think that is where we're going to see the issues arise with what the players are fighting for. But there is a silver lining to where things could get better for them. But let's keep going.
Only 42% left for WNBA and its owners. But this also means only 42% of national level revenue, like TV and sponsorship deals, trickles down to the WNBA owners. The remaining goes to the NBA and its owners, 5 of which are also WNBA owners, and the outside investor group. The current TV deal is worth about $60 million in 2024. Only about $2 million of that goes to each team.
Now, I know there were a lot of numbers thrown at you, but let's break this down pretty simple. All right, so to understand this issue, you have to understand how both the NBA and the WNBA distribute its money. Let's start with the NBA. For the NBA, you have the owners and you have the players, and they take 50% of basketball-related revenue. Now, in 2023, that revenue was $10.5 billion, and they've had an agreement since 1983 that they would share revenue 50-50. Now, our next step is to go to basketballreference.com. They list every NBA contract for the 2023-2024 season, and there were 496 contracts, as you can see on the screen. Now, if you just add up the money for the 2024-2025 season to see how much the players get paid, it should be around $5 billion, and I did the math, it's exactly $490,614. That's how much the NBA paid the players. So the NBA was simple, players and owners. But the WNBA gets really, really complicated. First, you got the WNBA players, they get a percentage. Then you have the WNBA owners, they also get a percentage. Along with that, you have the NBA owners who also get a percentage of WNBA revenue because they put in between $250 to $300 million to keep the league going this long. And you have the outside investment group who spent $75 million to get 16% of basketball-related revenue. So these are the people who must get paid by the WNBA if it ever generates any revenue. And this is how the percentages are broken down. The WNBA players and owners take 42% of basketball-related revenue. The NBA, who put in that $250 to $300 million, they get 42% of basketball-related revenue. And those investors who put in $75 million, they get 16% of basketball-related revenue. Now, if you split it out, it turns out that the players for the WNBA can only really get a max of 21% of basketball-related revenue. And remember, that's in contrast to the NBA players who get 50% of basketball-related revenue. So let's say the WNBA made $10 billion like the NBA. How would that look? Well, in that case, the players would get $2.1 billion. Now remember, the men were getting $5 billion, but the women would only get $2.1 billion. $3 billion less than the men because of how everyone has to be paid. The owners for the WNBA would get $2.1 billion. The NBA would get $4.2 billion, but that's because they invested almost a third of $1 billion into the league. And then that private investor group would also get $1.6 billion. So bottom line, in terms of percentage of revenue, the most the WNBA players can make is about 21 to 22%, while the NBA players make 50%. Now, this leads us into our first argument by WNBA players and their advocates that they should get about 50% of basketball-related revenue.
What's being lost in all that noise is the actual point. So let's unpack what the WNBA wage conversation is about. No, they don't want Steph Curry money. Well, they don't not want Steph Curry money, but that's just because Steph could pay the salary of every woman in the WNBA and still have enough left over to sign Le'Veon Bell. Anyone can make the argument that a younger, smaller, less popular league can't pay the same amount as the NBA. What's harder is
I don't know why Le'Veon Bell caught that straight right there. I'm not sure. I can't tell what time frame this is from, but dang, Le'Veon Bell caught it straight.
He's arguing they can't pay the same percentage, which is what WNBA players are trying to tell you. They recognize the difference in how much money each league brings in, but they do want a higher percentage of their league's revenue. Remember, NBA players get about 50% of what the league calls basketball-related income. A Forbes report last year estimated that WNBA players only get about 25% of BRI.
Well, Rachel, 25% is actually saying it too nice. It's actually closer to around 22%.
Yeah, like, and the big conversation about WNBA salaries and all that that's been going on. What is, like, from a player and from players in general, like your teammates, what is that opinion and how do you guys handle all those conversations?
We're not asking to get paid what the men get paid. We're asking to get paid the same percentage of revenue shared.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's a huge misconception.
That's a huge misconception.
For sure. Yeah, because every video is like, oh, this person gets paid this person gets paid that, right?
So I want to be really clear about that. Like, I don't think I should get paid the same as LeBron.
Right.
But the percentage of revenue. Like,
and now you know why the WNBA can't get.
So now that we saw that background information, it's going to be really hard for them to get that same revenue split of 50%, only because they have more hands in the pot than the NBA has in their pot. So that's a quick breakdown, but I like Nate the lawyer, so we're going to finish up this video.
As the men, which is 50%, because all of these stakeholders are involved. It's not just the players and the owners, it's the players, the owners, the NBA investors who put $250 to $300 million into the league, and the outside investors who pumped in $75 million to the league. All those people get a cut of the revenue. And as you can clearly see, the argument for a larger percentage of revenue is one that is ignorant at best, because based on the way the league is set up, the most they can get is 21%, unless the owners or the NBA or those outside investors give up some of their equity. Now, one thing you will not hear a lot is that the WNBA has never turned a profit. It's always had a deficit. So So what do I mean by that? Well, let me define some terms for you. First, I'm talking about revenue. Now, revenue is the amount of money a business generates. Then you have expenses, the cost incurred to run that business, rent, salaries, hiring people, that type of stuff. Then you have profit, which is essentially your revenue, the money you brought in, minus their expenses, the money you had to spend to generate that revenue. Now, if expenses are higher than revenue, you have a deficit. If revenue is higher than expenses, then you have profit. So this chart shows you the 2023 finances for the NBA and the WNBA side by side. As you can see here at the top, the NBA generated $10.58 billion in revenue, while the women's game only generated $200 million in revenue. But when you take into account expenses for the women's game, that revenue number actually drops to $40 million in the hole. In 2023, the female game lost $40 million. And remember, this was the WNBA's best season ever, and they still lost $40 million. Now, to be absolutely fair, they were projected to lose $50 million, so $40 million is actually a win. Now, on the plus side, WNBA just signed a new TV rights deal for $2.2 billion over 11 years, so it comes out to about $200 million a year.
The WNBA reportedly securing a new round of media rights deals with NBC, Amazon, and Disney, the parent company of ABC, worth about $2.2 billion over 11 years, about $200 million a year. This new media package, a massive increase, 6 times bigger than its previous deal.
Now, with this $200 million a year, it should allow the WNBA to be profitable for the first time in its history. So out of that $200 million TV deal, the players are going to see about $42 million of that money. The owners get another $42 million, the NBA gets its $84 million, and the investors get their $32 million, and that's each year. Now, think about this. The WNBA players right now only get about $16 million a year in salaries combined. All WNBA salaries, when you add them all up, comes out to about $16 million. So now they're going to have another $42 million on top of that they can dole out to the players. So based on the numbers and the structure of the league, the WNBA players should be able to get more money with this next round of collective bargaining. Now, they won't be able to get the same percentage of revenue as the men are getting because, again, the structure of the league, but they are well on their way to getting more money. As always, tell me where I'm wrong.
All right, so I'm just going to leave that there. This is the breakdown, and this is why I don't believe they'll be able to get that 50% revenue share or revenue split that they're actually looking for. But I do think there's some silver lining with their total salaries coming up to about $16 million, with them having a potential influx of $42 million a year for the next 11 years. I believe that they should be able to give max players more money. They should be able to that should trickle down to, I mean, that's about a little over 2.5 times what they currently pay their players. So that's looking at, I believe their max salary is $380,000 a year. I want to say that was the salary. That's the salary that Angel Reese gets. Asia Wilson gets. Asia Wilson, I know she has that max salary, and I believe hers is $380,000. Let me do a quick search real quick right here. Asia Wilson. I'm sorry, I keep messing that up. Let's see. Oh no, yeah, I messed that way up. All right, so she signed a 2-year extension, guaranteed. It was $400 million. 400,000. Me and these numbers beating me up right now, y'all. So she signed a max salary. It was 400,000 for a 2-year contract extension, and the final year of that is in 2025. So she should be able to see some of that salary increase that they should be looking for the 2026 season. But I remember when she signed this deal, she was one of the highest paid players, and I believe another one of the highest paid players was Breanna Stewart. I believe, yeah, and her salary is pretty similar, so $205,000. So right about that $200,000 range is looking like it's going to be the max for the top players. That should significantly increase after the 2026 season, or after when the 2026 season starts. So I think that is a silver lining. I don't think they're going to get that 50% revenue split, but they definitely have some money on the table that will be available to them. Now, in hindsight, it's looking like that investment they got from those outside investors, giving up 16% for that $75 million, that looked like a very bad investment. But at the time, they just didn't have the leverage. And one thing you will see across just all industries, when you are signing deals and you don't have the leverage, you just don't get the favor of the deal. So it seems like that deal wasn't even where they were going to just pay back the money that they took, the $75 million. This is just I'm guessing here at this point, it seems like they just sold the ownership for that amount of that 16%. So if that's the case, looking at these numbers, if with this influx of 200 million per season, the next 11 years, it's only going to take less than 2.5 years into this new deal for the investors to get their money back, and then they'll be in the green. So it's looking like a great investment for them. So, that's my take there. So the silver lining is, or the wrap up is, they do have a silver lining with an influx of money based on the new deals they signed. They should get more money. I just don't know if they are hard set on trying to get to that 50% revenue split. I don't think they're going to get there just because it's not available based on the makeup of how the money is divided. So we're going to wrap it up there. Let's get to the third, or actually, no, we're still in the second quarter, extended second quarter. So this high school video, it's been going viral. And let me see. Let me just get this pulled up. So at a high school track meet, high school athlete in Virginia, at this point, everybody's seen this. This situation is taking a turn, and I think this situation could have been totally different than how it's actually turned out. So, sorry, I'm posted to so many different places, getting notifications, getting sidetracked and distraction, but let's get off of that. All right, so we're going to watch this clip. This is only 57 seconds. Let me turn this closed caption off. So I got a couple different videos that we're going to watch about this. So this is going to be we have the victim in the situation, and then we have the actual, I'm trying to think of what we can call the other person in the situation. I saw somebody else call her a suspect because she was charged. We'll just say the other party involved at this point. So let's start. We're going to watch this backwards. We're going to start with a rally that they are having for. This is a rally
right now, the
for
community is holding
the
a rally
girl
in support of the
who
runner at the center of
hit
this
the other girl.
viral video. The clip appears to show Icy Norcom track star Alayla Everett hit another runner with a baton during a state championship race earlier this month. Everett now faces a misdemeanor assault and battery charge out of Lynchburg.
Shane Fordham is live outside Icy Norcom now, where the rally will be held. Shane.
Well, the community rally is now underway here at IC Norcom High School. As you can see behind me, many community members have come out to show their support for the Everett family, who insist the baton strike was an accident and not done intentionally. Alayla Everett was running the 4x200 event in the Virginia High School League Championships when the incident happened. The video shows Everett swing a baton, which made contact with Brookville High School junior Kaylin Tucker in the back of her head. Alayla's father, Genoa Everett, says the incident was accidental and that Tucker came too close to his daughter when coming around the curve, causing Alayla to lose balance. Tucker's mother told ABC News she doesn't believe it was an accident, and Wednesday we learned from the city of Lynchburg's Commonwealth's Attorney's Office that a petition was issued for assault and battery. Since the footage has gone viral, the Everett family says Alayla has received backlash and even death threats while at school. Community organizers say this rally is important for Portsmouth to show unity in support of a member of their own community.
It bothered me to my heart to see how the whole world was dragging this young lady. You know what I mean? Dragging her character based on what they thought they saw. You know, and I just wanted to step up and speak out and bring unity and let this young lady know that the city of Portsmouth has her back.
All right, so I'm just going to pause it here. So like I said, we're going to play this thing backwards. So they had a rally for her. She's went on different shows. She went on Good Morning America. She actually had the baton. She was showing, what she believed to happen in that situation. She's also asking for people to look at this from multiple different views because she doesn't feel like this should determine how people view her moving forward. And I don't understand the Portsmouth rally. I don't understand the rally. The reason why I don't understand the rally is because you're rallying behind a person who, even if they did it and it was an accident, why are you not rallying around the actual victim who was hit, who has a concussion, who could potentially have a fractured skull? That should be the person that the rally should be around. It should be the person who intentionally or unintentionally was actually struck So I don't get that. But that's that part. But let's go backwards. So now we're going to go to, this is the actual girl who was hit.
Junior Kaylin Tucker was running the second leg of the 4x200 relay in the Virginia State High School League Championships when the shocking incident happened.
That's when she hit me with the baton.
Watch again as you see the two sprinters running side by side as they round the corner with Kaylin on the outside, Kaylin's mother cheering her on. Just as Kaylin is passing the other runner, the athlete swings her baton, striking Kaylin.
I just felt a bang on my head and then I fell off the track immediately.
Kaylin dropping her baton and reaching for her head.
The whole Coliseum pretty much gasped. I just jumped up out of the bleachers immediately and ran to her on the main floor.
The 16-year-old was later diagnosed with a concussion. The family says neither the athlete who struck Kaylin nor the other team's coaches checked on Kaylin or reached out afterwards.
To see that they kept.
And this is where as soon as the incident happened, this is where there was a course of situations that all were wrong. Firstly, if you do accidentally hit someone, usually your natural instinct just kicks in and you'll go and you'll check on that person. I watch all different sports. I watch basketball, football, track and field. I watch the Olympics. I watch baseball. I watch a ton of sports. So I've never seen in a sport where something is done accidentally where they don't go check on that person. Even in a dangerous sport like football, if someone takes a big hit, then, you see other people, go to that person's aid to make sure that they're okay. So for instance, this is going to be a throwback, but I can't remember the quarterback, but when Lawrence Taylor hit that quarterback, he hit him low. He knew he injured that quarterback. He immediately started waving to the side to get help onto the field so they can come and take a look at the quarterback that he had just hit. It's been multiple situations that have happened in far more physical sports where someone has been accidentally hit and everyone naturally goes to check on that person. So this is where I think the first crack in the story is where you hit her, it wasn't intentional, according to the runner, you didn't check on her, you looked at her, and you kept going. Then in another interview, the actual runner who hit the girl said that by the time she finished the race and went back, she went to check on her, but it was too many people around her. Then she asked her track coach, what should she do? Should she go up to her? And I just think in that instance, you look at every other sport where if something is done accidental or if a person is even hurt, usually it stops right there and people go check up on this person. So when it first happened, you didn't check on her, you didn't apologize. After it happened, if you finish the race, they don't show us the video if the full race was finished. But even after that, you didn't go check on this person. So that's two instances where you're going to check on this person. Then the coaching staff, you ask the coaching staff, let me get this light on. You ask the coaching staff, should we go check on her? And I'm guessing that the coach said no because the person who hit the other girl said that, I didn't get a chance to, check up on her. I tried to reach out through social media. So there is some type of backstory there where she was following the girl on social media. The victim who is here on the screen, she stopped following and she blocked the other girl, which is totally understandable based on the circumstances. So it was three different errors that happened instantly, Then to keep going and doing all these different interviews and for the family to rally around her, which this is a very simple thing. If you are rallying around your daughter to this degree and your daughter is the one who accidentally hit the other runner, how would you feel if your daughter was the one that was actually hit? What would you be doing? Would you respond differently than this family who also is put in a situation where they have to protect their child? So, once you flip it like that, if you're defending your child who accidentally hit the other girl, what lengths would you go to if your daughter was the one that was hit? So it just shows that, when you make mistakes, and especially now where everything is recorded, the best thing to do is to take the L and admit to fault right away when you were doing things. That was one thing that Nick Wright spoke about that I thought was very big. He said people don't know how to take L's, especially in the media, but I think in general in life, people don't know how to take L's. I think this would be a totally different circumstances if right when she hit her, she stopped running, she checked on her. All these things, could have been handled differently. So so many instances where, the ball was dropped. And now you have, I don't know if I have the video. Let's see if I have it queued up. I had a bunch of videos from this. Yeah, I don't believe I had the video, but the NAACP is getting in to defend the girl who hit the other girl. And that doesn't make sense to me, because where do you draw the line when we are not allowing someone to, make a mistake, deal with the consequence of a mistake to be able to move forward? My dad told me a long time ago that, if you don't learn from the first time you make a mistake, that second time you make a mistake is going to be worse. If you don't learn your lesson till the third time you make the same mistake, it's going to be a lot worse. And I think in this instance, this is where we see a lack of accountability on so many different levels, where just admitting fault and apologizing and checking on this person, which is just normal human decency. This situation could have played out totally different. And it's one of those situations where we'll get into this with the Myles Garrett situation. The more you speak and try to convince people what you believe happened, and you want people to not believe what their eyes saw. When you watch this, I believe it's in this video. I'm going to turn the sound off because I'm going to keep talking while this video is on. But you can see a wind up. You can see she looks at her, she winds up, and she swings. You can tell me that my eyes don't see this, but that is exactly what my eyes see. She looks at her right there, she swings. You never see that motion happen when people are running in track and field. They had somebody come out and say, oh, she was getting close to her lane. There's another angle where you see it was actually the opposite. She is running into the outside lane to protect her lane so the girl can't overtake her. So you can clearly see that there. I think all these adults are handling this the wrong way by not teaching the accountability of when you make a mistake. And, that just, I understand you got to protect your child, but sometimes your children put you in a position where you have to parent them even as they get older. And this is a situation, I do have a daughter. I'm not just speaking and just saying this out of nowhere, where you do have to tell them when they've done something wrong. And I think this is where they have missed that opportunity. All right, so that is the second quarter. We got those two stories wrapped up. We're moving right along throughout the show. We can even call this the halftime, but as we get this right for the third quarter. All right, we're gonna get the third quarter started. Third quarter. Since it's halftime, I'll catch you up to speed of kind of how I was looking at this. First quarter, we talked about how Stephen A. couldn't take an L. Second quarter, we talked about how the WNBA players are kind of in a tough situation. They just, not take the L, but don't overplay the leverage that you believe you have. The third story was another situation, not being able to take accountability, not being able to take an L. So you see, that was the first half of the show, was all about accountability, taking an L, and not overplaying your leverage. Second half of the show is going to be about more so the media coverage around situations, kind of going to get on some Cleveland fans a little bit, just with how they respond to every situation. And when you jump all over the place and you overreact on every situation, you put yourself out there to be just panicked. I'll tell you a quick story. So when we got Kenny Pickett, I responded to somebody on X who said, isn't it funny that the Browns now have Kenny Pickett as their QB1? When we tease the Steelers fans for having him as their QB1. Funny thing is, technically he is our QB1. We haven't signed a second QB yet. And then Deshaun Watson's likely out for the season. So he's our only QB on the team. So technically he is QB1. So I responded and said, on behalf of Browns fans, would you take him back? I had a Browns fan, respond to me and said that it was a bad premise for me to respond saying he would be QB1. I just told him, you know what? I think the Browns are going to handle the quarterback situation differently. I believe we're going to get a bridge quarterback. I also believe we're going to draft a quarterback number 2 overall. So that's what I told him. That was my response. But I told him, like, hey, man, laugh a little bit. It was a joke. We're here. We're joking. It's a funny situation. I'm like, look, we haven't lost a game this year yet. You don't got to be on edge already. So it just shows you sometimes fans can just be so riled up with situations that, they don't take the time to just enjoy the good times when the good times are here. You know, it's tough being a Browns fan, been a Browns fan my whole life, Cleveland sports fan my whole life, seen heartaches, been around for a lot of heartache as a fan. So, you know, in situations where we can laugh and kind of joke, it's a great thing to do because it can't weigh on you as a fan. But I got some shorts from UCSS. And so this is where we're going to start. Let me get this corrected on the screen. Let me get this squared off so it's just not. All right, that's a little bit better. It's in the middle. So this is from UCSS. I got 3 shorts, and then we're gonna get into the Myles Garrett situation. First, we're gonna look at this is G. Bush. He's talking about how Browns fans will receive us, signing a 40-year-old Joe Flacco. I don't want Joe Flacco. There's younger quarterbacks out there, but this kind of just shows you the extreme nature of Browns fans. So when you don't know what to do, you just kind of grasp at straws. But the thing is, you have to have a plan. So you start off with a plan, you execute the plan, and you do it to the best of your ability, not grasp for straws and grasp for old hope. I don't follow teams as closely as I follow the Cleveland Browns, but let me actually turn this way. But I know that Browns fans always want to rehash something old that happened. The Joe Flacco experience was a great experience. It was a great ride while we had it. He was the primary reason why we lost the playoff game with his turnovers. And it's the same thing I said last year with Jameis Winston. He is a great media personality, but he is a turnover machine. And people were calling for us to sign Jameis to another year and sign Jameis early. G. Bush specifically was saying, sign Jameis early before he gets to another team. And I was already saying, hey, I can't deal with the Jameis experience. He's a fun guy. He seems like he has a good spirit to himself, but he's a turnover machine. That will drive Kevin Stefanski wild. I think I know the point in last season where Kevin Stefanski was over Jameis. I might get this into another show, but I don't want to go too off subject here. So let's get to it. These are some shorts from UCSS. First one's G. Bush.
The Browns today came out and said that our first move is we bringing back Joe Flacco. I think Browns fans will be ecstatic.
I do too.
I think
Browns won't be any good still, but
they'll be ecstatic. They won't be that.
What world are we living in where the known Bengals fan is, explaining to Browns fans how, just grasping the straws won't work and won't help you? That's the first clip. I agree with Bull on there. People will be excited, and then when the reality gets there, then they'll change their mind. This is prior to Myles Garrett re-signing with the Browns.
My whole issue with this thing is like Myles Garrett is not going to play for the Browns anymore. I'm convinced.
That's what he's saying.
He will never play for the Browns again. Yeah. And the Browns need to come to that realization that this dude doesn't need you. Yeah. He's a different cat. Like, he's given you 8 years of his life, of his career. He's going to be a...
That's another one, just a bad take. I said on my show last week prior to Myles Garrett re-signing, Browns had all leverage. They had him for another 4 years. They can just say, hey, we're not trading you, which is what they did. They stood firm. They had a unified front. They said, we're not trading you. Basically, we have the leverage. Everything is about leverage. You heard the WNBA players, Dejanay Carrington saying that, the WNBA players have the leverage right now. They got to use that leverage. When you have the leverage, you call the shots. And Myles Garrett did not have the leverage. And that's why last week I said that if the Browns did trade Myles Garrett, I didn't believe it would be before going into the 2026 season. I thought it was no way if they were going to trade him, they would even trade him before this year. So we see that. That was just a wonky take. He's a different type of cat. He'll retire. He won't play. I never believed that for 1 minute that Myles Garrett would sit out a whole year. Let's get to the next one. I believe this is Cecil Short. I believe that is. He's a receiver.
Cleveland is the laughing stock of what's going on in the NFL right now. The Browns are the laughing stock of what's going on in the NFL. And stuff like this is not helping that cause. So for me, even just bringing him in, there's nothing wrong with it. Bring him in and talk about it. Whatever the case may be. If it's
I don't know if y'all seeing a trend here. So this is where we get into, the third and fourth quarter is all about, are we getting entertainment? Should we view these people based on entertainment, or should we view them based on their actual analysis of the game and their understanding of the sport? So what we're seeing is we need to look at a lot of what we see on UCSS. If you watch that show, that is entertainment. They were so far off. They were so far off with trading Myles. They're so far off when they talk about quarterbacks that we should sign long term. So far off with what we should do in the draft. Just so far off. And another thing they have a habit of doing is blaming something that you can't quantify. So I used to be a recruiter. I said that on the last show. I would recruit for stores. When I recruit for certain stores, they would say, oh, these candidates aren't good quality. Now, when a person can't tell you what good and bad quality is, they're selling you something that's not tangible. That just means they're complaining to complain. And a lot of times you will see on UCSS, I used to watch it every single day. I don't watch it basically. I kind of watch clips here and there as much as I can deal with. They always blame DePodesta. They always blame Haslam. They always blame people or situations that are not tangible, that they cannot point to that this is the outcome or this is what truly caused this situation. To me, I call that blowing air. The reason why that's blowing air is because it's not something tangible that we can rate or grade. So, if you want to talk about something in a constructive way, talk about things that are tangible that we can rate and grade, that we actually can get information and we can say this is good or this is bad. When you talk in that world of hypotheticals, blowing smoke and things that aren't tangible, I think you're blowing air. So this is the last clip.
I think they should have traded him. Not because he requested a trade, because it was the best interest of the franchise. The intersection of where this franchise is right now, of everything we've talked about this morning up until this point, where he's at in his career, trade him. Get what you can for him. It'll be a lot. Is it going to be?
All right, so y'all see what this is. It's just one of them situations where there's just a lot of blowing the air. So now we're at a point where we should trade our best player. And we should trade him because he said we should trade him, so we should lose the leverage. Now, going back a couple of years, we had Odell Beckham, and we just released him, and everybody was mad because we released him because, the situation with his dad, releasing a video of the times that Baker Mayfield was missing him when he was wide open. And everybody goes back to, man, we just released him. I was mad in the moment because we had leverage. We didn't have to release him. We traded something for him. You don't just give away players, especially players that are productive. So in this situation with Myles Garrett, I don't believe the Browns are a better team next year with trading Myles Garrett. I don't believe it. And since I don't believe that, I wouldn't have traded Myles Garrett. I wouldn't have given up the 4 years of leverage that we had, 2 years under contract, 2 years we can franchise tag him, especially giving the production that he's given us. Now, if I'd have continued watching this, the reason that Jason gives is because he says that while he was at the combine, he spoke to a prominent person in another team who is perennially good in the NFL, and basically Jimmy Haslam just throws money at situations. And they speak on the Deshaun Watson situation. Deshaun Watson was out a year. He had a lot of off the field things. To take the Deshaun Watson contract and situation and compare that to the production and everything we got from Myles Garrett just in the time since Deshaun Watson has been here, those are not apples to apples. It couldn't be a further comparison because you know what you get with Myles. The entire situation with Deshaun Watson was an unknown. So even to compare those two things, you are blowing air. This is something that you can't compare. You would have to compare Myles Garrett to someone else that produces the entire time that they've been here, and then things went bad. You compared him to someone who, Deshaun Watson, I was rooting for him, but he never looked like the player that we saw in Houston. He never looked like the player. To me, just a quick assessment, it looked like the game sped up. It looked like the game that he played when he was in Houston, that isn't the NFL anymore, and he was stuck in between those two situations. He had the confidence of a player who did the things in Houston, but he just didn't have the speed, the processing, and everything on what the game is now from him being away from the game for all that time. And that's what I saw. So to compare those two things, it makes no sense at all. No sense. So this is where we just got to look at this where, Jason Lloyd is coming from a place of, journalism, and he's using these different sources to get his information. But if you just look at, what people say on a consistent basis, how many times they are wrong. I mean, Jason Lloyd prior to last season, planted his flag on the field for Jedrick Wills when everyone else saw that Jedrick Wills was playing out of position and he was struggling mightily. And that was the last player that he really just, Jedrick Wills. So when you have a track record of just not being able to see that a person is struggling in the position that they're in, we have to put you, even though you are a writer, we got to put you in that entertainment bucket because what you are saying is not coming to fruition with how you're evaluating situations. I will give Jason credit because last year he said the offense stunk in preseason. He was right. The offense stunk. So I'll give him credit where credit is due. But just this Myles Garrett situation, I think he is completely off base. It's no way that I would trade him for unknown. This is the thing that I realize that people will take the unknown because it gives them hope versus the known that they actually have. For me, I learned as I get older, unknown is not good. Any situation that you get into, you always want to take the known versus the unknown. A little tangent here. I was watching the Mr. Beast show, the Beast Games. I'm not sure it's called on Amazon Prime. In that situation, so many people took the hope of winning the whole thing and take the guaranteed money when, that's not the way to make decisions. That's not the way to run a business. You take the guaranteed and you work from the guaranteed. So I just totally disagree with, we should have still traded Myles and just got what we can get for him. If you look at the free agent DN market, nobody's just getting these high bags. Nobody's on Myles Garrett's level. Trey Hendrickson is fighting. He led the league in sacks last year in Cincinnati. He's fighting for a contract from Cincinnati. Cincinnati said, hey, go out there, try to find a trade partner. Still nothing has come to fruition going through free agency. So this shows you that even though Myles Garrett is at top, we might have got a 1. I heard people saying, take a 1 and a 3. It's no way that I would take a 1 and a 3 for Myles Garrett based on the productivity that he gives us. It doesn't make sense. I totally and wholeheartedly disagree with handling it like that. Now we're going to get into Myles Garrett's press conference. Myles Garrett's press conference, he gets asked a bunch of questions. It's 23 minutes long. I'm just going to skim through and try to find some of the good questions. One of the things they did ask him was, let's see. I watched this. I saw it live when it was actually happening. They asked him about, what he would do for the fans.
Between what you had immediately after the season and, the most recent conversation, was the plan?
Let's see. All right, so we got to add here. I just want to find the question where. Man, we get double back-to-back ads. Come on, man.
Does it take like I said?
I want to find a question where they asked him. They asked him specifically. Oh, I didn't realize I didn't fix that. Let me get that fixed back. They asked him about what he's going to do to win the fans back since he did go out and ask for a trade and he just went across, with saying he wanted out. I think him and his agent and his team were trying to use the NBA strategy of players being traded, and the NFL safeguarded itself from being able to do that with the franchise tag. So, big time players in their prime don't move like that. Just because you got the freedom of the franchise tag. So you got him on that rookie contract. He was a first round draft pick, #1 overall. So we got him for 5 years. We can get his 5th year option. We get 2 more years of a franchise tag. So you're basically guaranteed on your first round picks. If you hit on them, you're guaranteed 7 years control of that player on your team. So that's totally different with how the NBA works. So I think they took the NBA strategy and it backfired. I was trying to see if anybody in the comments had timestamps. It's crazy in this day and age not having timestamps. Let's see if I can find it.
Continue to learn to be
out. I don't think that this team could win, and that now you're back, and how that impacts the fans and how they view you.
Like I said, that media road run, that created more discourse between myself and management. That created conversation between myself and AB, Jimmy, and up and down the chain, and that kind of stuff became a main variable for this deal getting done. These conversations down the road. So I think the fans will see that my heart's in the right place. It's never been about money. It's always been about winning, and that's where my frustration lies. And I want to thank Nicole because she's the best agent in the world, and I didn't have any really input on how the deal was going to look, but I just know that when the time came, and we all know we're on the same page, that she went on and did what she does and got the best deal possible for myself and for the Browns.
So that was him asking a question of how he would, respond to fans after he did, publicly say he wanted out. I think it was good there. He's not going to go on a publicity stunt tour and, trying to backtrack all the words that he said. He basically said he's just going to do it with his play on the field. And he said it wasn't about money. I know the first thing a lot of people said was it was all about money. I don't think it was about money. I think that he truly did want out. I think he is looking at the situation. He saw what happened to Joe Thomas. Later on in here, he is going to say, he texted Joe Thomas to see, kind of how he, dealt with the situation of not winning as much as you would like to win throughout your career. And to me, it just seems like he did want out. I think that was true. He wanted out. He did not have the leverage to get out. And after he didn't have the leverage to get out, just checking all my things here. Once he didn't have the leverage to get out, then he just accepted the fact that I'm going to be here. And he had no guarantee. I believe the next 2 years, he had no guaranteed money. So just with, getting ahead of the game with not him going into, contract years and all the situation, already saying he wanted to get out, they re-signed the deal. Also, another thing, this happened kind of with the Deshaun Watson deal that kind of didn't play out like the Browns thought. But if you remember, when we signed Deshaun Watson, he also had Joe Burrow coming up in 2 years. So the Browns are kind of, sticking it to some of the other players, especially owners who don't want to spend the same amount of money. So we didn't see anyone else get that same amount of guarantees flat out, or like contract like Deshaun. But we did hear the Bengals say that they want to make Jamar Chase the highest non-paid QB in the NFL. We heard those rumblings coming out of the draft combine. And basically now with them going, they didn't just go $1 million over what Max Crosby got paid with his 35. I believe his is $35.5 million a year. They went about $4.5 million above that. So now for the Bengals, which they are a team that doesn't like to spend money, their defense is getting totally gutted as they try to spend some money to keep their offense afloat and keep Joe Burrow happy. Now it's looking like they're going to be spending $70 million on 2 receivers, with Jamar Chase getting above that $40 million. They're saying it's going to be $40 million, $100,000, so he could overtake what Myles Garrett got. And they're saying, T. Higgins is going to be in that $30 million range. It's going to be $70 million on 2 receivers, which that's going to be tough. You're not really going to be able to pay a running back that much. Just with, $70 million going to those 2 players like that. So another thing, this will touch on something. It's not really the Browns, but teams who are going to win, they're more proactive with players who are great. The Bengals could have signed Jamar Chase 2 years ago, and they could have got him in that $30 million range, similar to what Tyreek Hill got. They could have got him in the $30 million range, and it would have looked a lot smarter. That would have saved them, this is going to save them about $10 million a season on him. They probably could have got T. Higgins signed a little bit earlier. They could have got him in that $20 to mid $20 million range. They could have got these guys for about $55 million a year. Instead, they're going to be about $70 million a year. You know, it's a similar situation with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm already thinking about how I'm going to do a breakdown show of prior to the NFL season. I'm going to tell you some prominent teams that I'm just going to guarantee won't win the Super Bowl prior to the season start. Part of the thing that I'm going to look at is how they handle decisions. I'm really going to do a deep dive into the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are making every decision late with playing their stars. They paid Dak late. Now Dak is getting, $60 million a season. They could have got him in the 40 range if they would have got him around the time Deshaun Watson. Actually, before the Deshaun Watson signing, Micah Parsons. First he was saying he was going to take some money off the table to stay in Dallas so they can stay good. I don't see that happening. I see Micah Parsons. He's going to want to be in that range of a Myles Garrett, believing he's the same quality of player as a Myles Garrett. He's going to want to be somewhere, between the Max Crosby and the Myles Garrett. I believe they could have got him for $30 million last year. So when you have these teams, this is a little tangent here. When you have these teams who pay guys late and they pay them reluctantly, and then they're forced to pay them more as the cap goes up every year, that is going to be part of the reason why some of these teams, they just won't win. The Cincinnati Bengals, they're going to be one of those teams who I don't believe is going to be able to win it all. I believe their defense is getting gutted. And they lost their safeties a couple of years ago. Now their D-line is going to look totally different. So, when you have teams who are just losing all their star players and quality players who show up for them every year, and it's all based on money because they're waiting to the last minute to sign them, these guys, these teams, they're not going to win it all. So, not as much as we, will go into the Myles Garrett response, but I just want to make it very clear. Myles Garrett did something totally different than a high school track star and her family has gotten her to do. He is not going to go on publicity tour to try to take back everything he said. He's saying, I'm going to do it with my play. The same thing that family could have did with the high school, track athlete. They could have said, hey, it wasn't intentional. We apologize. They should have reached out to the family immediately at the event. They should have went up to the other athlete at the event, and they should have been, apologizing then from the start. It's only getting worse for them and staying more viral because they just keep denying it. And basically, as you watch from different angles, even her recollection of what happened doesn't even match what the video shows. So, you just want to, deal with these situations head on. Not knowing how to take that L makes situations worse for you. So also a thing here for Browns fans, a lot of Browns fans, they didn't want to lose Myles, but then when we re-signed Myles, now they're upset about us signing Myles. It just doesn't make sense. The last couple of years, as I've been looking more and speaking publicly about the Browns, I just wonder, are these guys really fans of the team? Do they want to see the team get better? Or do they just want to complain about what they believe the team should do? Because to me, I see a lot of people who just, they want to complain about what the team is doing, and they don't want to give anyone credit when they do something well. I think Jimmy Haslam, staying in line with AB and sending, rejecting Myles the time to speak to him, sent a clear message to Myles on how they're going to have a unified front and how they're going to run things. I think that is a plus. I think re-signing Myles now, when you have a lot of players coming up who are non-quarterbacks who are going to be getting signed to big money, I think is a smart thing to do to get Myles. Remember, you still got TJ Watt who didn't sign yet. So, you got TJ Watt, you got Micah Parsons, you got Trey Henderson, who's looking for, to re-sign. These are all of the top, 4 to 5 DNs in the NFL. So we got our guy signed second after Max Crosby. So we're not going to pay as much as other teams are going to be forced to pay because guys are going to hold out for those negotiations because they put up the big numbers. So that's another plus. I'm not saying that the Browns handle everything perfectly. It's a lot of stuff that I don't believe they handle well. But when they do things right, you got to look at the things that they do right. Last year, I think we went, into our running back room, and I thought our running back room was weak, and it showed it was weak, and it just didn't pan out for us. So it's times where we don't do things the best. Us signing Ken Dorsey last year, I just didn't think it would be good. We're a run-based team. He's a pass-based guy. So when he was in Buffalo calling the plays, they were bottom of the league in rush attempts. So I just didn't think that bode well. Our offensive line is designed to be bullies, to go forward, not to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. So I just think we had some schematic issues with how we were signing, players to make players, and also how we were signing our coaching staff. So, I'm not saying they do everything right, but when they do something right, you got to look at it as a win and take the wins as they come. If you are already complaining about how the Browns are doing things, you're going to be stressed and tired. And, by the time the season gets here, it's a long way to go. So, I'm just not going to fall, in that category of just being, Debbie Downer and just negative about everything. So we made it through. You see the middle of the screen right here. You see it highlighted. We got entertainment or analysis. So we kind of got into some entertainment or analysis into the third quarter. We're leading into the Myles Garrett topic. Now we're working our way through. We made it on home. We made it to the fourth quarter. Everybody hold your fours up. Hold your fours up. We made it to the fourth quarter. We're going to really dive even deeper into if we are getting analysis, especially from these former players. Are we getting analysis based on their time studying the game and watching the game? Or should we throw a lot of these guys into the entertainment bucket because they are not giving us, they're not giving us the detailed analysis or breakdowns that we believe we're getting. Let me grab something to drink. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All right, so let's get it. Hold them fours up. Let me get that in the screen. Hold them fours up. Fourth quarter. We got the fourth quarter here. So you see, we got Shaq. We got Charles Barkley. We got them at the center of the screen. We're going to start off with this clip. This recently happened. This has been going semi-viral, but this is a perfect example of what I mean when I say entertainment or analysis. After this clip right here we're going to watch, you're going to see that we're going to have to throw some people directly into the bucket of entertainment, even though they might have a gold jacket. They might be Hall of Fame. They might have, they might be top 20 players, top 50 player all time in their respective field. If they're not putting in the work, if they're not watching the games, if they're not studying the tape, they're entertainment. Because a lot of times you'll hear they are blowing air. Let's get it.
That can consistently play at their own pace and put up numbers. It's a great player. I like the way he's playing. I like what Chauncey is doing. Those guys play hard. My favorite player on that team is Isaiah Stewart. Big body, hard guy. Like to knock people out, push people
No, I can't
around.
let this go. You like who? Who's doing it? You said Chauncey?
Chauncey's the coach, right?
Okay.
Portland. No.
Chauncey, I was like, I can't let this go.
JB Bickerstaff. That's what I mean. Hey, first of all, I don't watch Detroit. How about that, boo-boo?
What kind of idiots do you have working here?
That can
All right, so y'all see that. So we got Shaq. We got Shaq here. This is recent. Shout out to Candace Parker. Candace Parker was not letting that slide. She even, went back to it like, who you liking what they're doing? And he doubled down on it. So JB Bickerstaff has been the Pistons coach 2 years now. And he said his favorite player on the Pistons was Isaiah Stewart because he's pushing people around. Isaiah Stewart is a role player. Isaiah Stewart is not the star player. He's not a star player on that team. Cade Cunningham, a young player in this league, early round draft, I think he was drafted number 2, I want to say, if I'm not wrong. I think Paolo Banchero was 1, he was number 2 in that draft that, he was drafted to the Pistons. He's averaging 21 plus. And you're telling me your favorite player is Isaiah Stewart. And then you're telling me that Chauncey Billups is doing a great job. Chauncey Billups has been coaching in Portland for 2 years. And then once you get called on it, which shout out again to Candace Parker for calling him on it, he says, I don't watch the Pistons. All right, so to me, that is just straight up That's entertainment. He doesn't even watch the team. He even admitted to not watching the team. He doesn't know the team's best player. He doesn't know who the coach is. You know, he's off on coaches. Chauncey he was never the head coach of the Pistons. He played for the Pistons. He was never the head coach of the Pistons. Chauncey Billups' first head coaching job that he got was in Portland. He was his first head coaching job he got was in Portland. So, Shaq, what are we doing, man? You know, we just looking at this and, you know, Shaq is one of those people. Shaq is pretty sensitive when it comes to how people critique things that he says. And he does the automatic Hall of Famer, how many rings do you have, as his trump card in every argument. The problem with that is when you say things that are just 100% wrong, your accolades, they're not showing through. You actually diminish your accolades when you don't know who the coach is, and then you admit to not watching the team, and then you try to speak on who the best player is and who you like the most. The problem is you are diminishing your accolades every time you do that. It's okay. I don't mind if you don't watch the Pistons. I don't watch the Pistons either. I don't watch every game. I'm a Cavs fan. I'm a LeBron fan. So, you know, I follow the Cavs. I can tell you all the guys on the Cavs. I can tell you how they're doing. Currently, as I'm recording this, we're on a 16-game win streak. So I can tell you how we're doing. We just beat Memphis yesterday. I can tell you how my team is doing. Team that I watch. So I can definitely tell you that. I'm intrigued by the JJ Redick Lakers with Luka and LeBron. We know LeBron is out. We know Luka dropped a 40 burger against